every generation of gaming have genres that dominate the market of their times. MMOs were the prevailing genre in the 2007 era, with World of Warcraft leading the charge. MOBAs soon followed suit, and became the most prominent genre 5 years later, with League of Legends and Dota 2. And more recently, the Battle Royale craze of Fortnite and PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds had every developer convinced to create their own 100-man showdowns. In every popular genre of games, there's usually 2 or 3 behemoths at the top, competing against one another for the top spot. And often, the top games achieve their success through a combination of revolutionary game design, perfect marketing, and the right timing for their release. However, for a game to remain at the top, it takes more than a great game, with an active community and consistent updates spicing up the gameplay to achieve the #1 spot in a genre. Launched in May of 2016, Overwatch very quickly became synonymous with phrases like the most popular modern first player and arena shooter. Just as the FPS craze was thought to have reached a zenith in popularity amongst gamers, Overwatch took the gaming community by storm. Thanks to the amazing marketing and deep pockets of Activision Blizzard, the word of the game was on everyone's mouth long before its release. At the time, a good majority of gamers were frustrated with the shooter's genre. Rainbow Siege 6 lacked content early in its lifecycle. TF2 communities worried about the lack of support from Valve, and Star Wars Battlefront's DLC practices turned most away from EA completely. Flummoxed with a pool of mediocre shooters, this congregation of gamers from many different FPS shooters sought to Overwatch as potentially the next big thing. Marketed with great fanfare and excellently choreographed cinematics, its memorable characters quickly became the word all around the internet. Yet, like all titanics of popular genres, what created their popularity also inadvertently started the game's stagnation over time. Few games besides Overwatch has been blessed with an incredibly enthusiastic and positive group of voice actor and actresses.
Cupcakes never die!
Oh my god, you ladies are enjoying that like crazy. The cupcake is really good.
Did somebody call a doctor?
Relájate, I'm not going to kill you.
Oh, you were not meant for greatness. It's just so much easier for us to speak and just stick to what we're doing.
¿Qué onda,
Yeah, you know. Welcome to my reality.
Why are you so angry?
I don't know. Why are you so angry?
Why are you so angry?
Nah, why are you so angry?
Why are you so angry?
Why are you so angry?
The amount of time and effort invested by these people into the community evidently shows that the game's cast of characters, a lightning in a bottle few designers can capture, represents something quite special. Not only does Overwatch deviate from the stereotypical arena shooter characters, but its diverse cast of members also allow for a much more inclusive crowd of players, so that anybody from all walks of life could identify with someone. Partly due to the near 50% of female-to-male ratio in the heroes pool, Overwatch appealed to many female gamers who could unquestionably identify with heroes like d.va, a former pro esports player who volunteered to fight in the Omnix War piloting a mecha unit because of her fast reflex skills. Soldier 786, a hit-scan hero with a classic COD-like sprint ability, attracts both fans of Gen 7 arena shooters and newcomers alike. And tanks like Reinhardt or Winston, both whom demand less aiming capabilities while emphasizing positioning and teamwork, caters to players who might suffer from carpal tunnel syndrome or those who simply prefer to play on controllers. Not only did Blizzard design individual hero mechanics to accommodate all players, but visually, they also help pander to every possible demographic. Not enough strong women in video gaming? We'll introduce Zarya, the strongest woman in Russia. Tired of seeing slim and fit characters? Fine. We'll add Roadhog, a hero who will probably end up as a boss character in any other video game. The community was so enthralled with the cast of characters that they created Rule 34 content of Overwatch way before the game was even released. Though some might find the very idea of animated porn to be repulsive, to quote the famous Jesse Cox.
Did I not, many podcasts ago, say you know a game's success is judged by the amount of porn associated with it? I said it months and months and months ago. I stand by what I said. The porn has only increased.
Blizzard also attempts to appease minority groups, particularly the LGBTQ community, when the comics Reflections, released in December 2016, depicted Tracer, the cover girl of Overwatch, as a lesbian. Furthermore, Jeff Kaplan, the designer of Overwatch, officially confirmed Symmetra as autistic when responding to a fan mail of a boy writing on behalf of his autistic brother who loves Overwatch. Where Blizzard allowed the competitive mode to decline while trying to push for esports was where the perception of Overwatch by the mainstream gaming community soured. The scrupulous blueprints that birthed the Overwatch esports scene only acted as a marketing maneuver for the game itself for most gamers. Without the right infrastructure to set the foundations for the competitive mode in-game, numerous rules and features were either missing or added last minute that would otherwise be considered a necessity for an esports game with hundreds of millions invested, like team color differentiation for easier spectating and better camera systems, though even this can be a struggle sometimes for the infant esport.
So far in this match, but they've been impactful. Yeah, and you're not even really charging your Valkyrie. Oh, drop it, getting two with a pulse bomb. It's like, Closer was able to get his Valkyrie before 5 King.
With no restrictions regarding how many Korean players a team can have, everyone in the league took the opportunity to include Koreans in their starting roster. This can usually result in cultural clashes between Western and Korean players. Many of them having grown up in the highly competitive ganbatte culture of East Asia, treat a job like playing video games very seriously. Though it's a non-issue for an all-Korean team like the Seoul Dynasty, many of the former players from teams like Kondu Panthera and Africa Blue sought to join mixed teams. Without proper support from translators and psychologists, these Korean players can not only feel left out, but even depressed sometimes. What makes the Overwatch League unwatchable for me at least, is not the poor camera work when tracking fights, nor is the Korean dominance giving me no incentive to cheer for anyone else. Rather, it is the meta itself. With a few exceptions, on very specific maps, just about every game is the same 4 to 5 heroes facing off against one another. Though an inherent problem with how good mobility is in the game, it nonetheless gets stale after watching the same hero pools get spammed for many stages across many patches. Someone once said, "Watching Overwatch League makes me want to play Overwatch, but playing Overwatch makes me want to quit Overwatch." Though I merely scoffed at this remark, thinking about this statement today, and it could not be any closer to the truth. Years since its launch, Overwatch has attained the reputation of the most toxic online game, even surpassing the infamy of League of Legends. Valve, the developers of Dota 2, investigated this as early as 2013 and found that players generally won't quit the game after experiencing a loss streak, but are much more inclined to do so when facing rampant toxicity. Speaking from personal experience, I once had the unfortunate experience of going on a losing streak and jumping from low diamond to mid gold. Tilted out of my mind, I turned off voice chat for close to 30 games before having my SR dive even further down and hitting low gold. This struggle made me realize that not only had I become the very toxic player I despised due to my lack of communication to teammates, but that anybody can become toxic under the right circumstances. From this learning experience, I have concluded most toxicity can be grouped into 3 categories. The kind where the toxic player in question is simply having a bad day, the kind where high expectations from the teammates were not met, and ones that stem from a divide in playstyle between selfish and team players. While nothing can be done for the first two types of toxicity, I believe the third kind, the lone wolves versus the team players, can not only be reduced, but used as levers to win games. Having a Widow one-trick doesn't need to be brought up after every lost fight. Rather, teams should give them the benefit of the doubt. After all, Overwatch is balanced as a team game, and only through positive attitude and great teamwork can one achieve their goals.